as you arrive on your mat, come into about the middle in an active Sukhasana pose. So you're bringing the four corners of your feet to face the side edges of the mat, resting your shins on opposite feet, and drawing the heels of your feet towards your sits bones to help create that lift through your low back. So an isometric action of heels towards sits bones, lifting your low back, lengthen upwards, and then bringing your hands into Atmanjali Mudra and your thumb tips towards your third eye point, Ajna Chakra, which means perception. And take your gaze towards that point where your thumb tips are touching. Let your elbows and your shoulders release down, so you're holding yourself up through your waist instead of your shoulders, and begin to lengthen your breathing. I'm going to give you a longer reading right at the beginning of the practice so that you have some visualization to work with. If your arms get tired, see if you can feel your core holding you up, and remember that this is part of the practice. This is part of strengthening, is simply figuring out how to hold your arms up and minimize the tension in that. But if you need to bring them down, just bring them back up as soon as you're able. This is called Starlings in Winter. It's by Mary Oliver. Chunky and noisy, but with stars in their black feathers, they spring from the telephone wire, and instantly they are acrobats in the freezing wind. And now, in the theater of air, they swing over buildings, dipping and rising. They float like one stippled star that opens, becomes for a moment fragmented, then closes again. And you watch and you try, but you simply can't imagine how they do it. With no articulated instruction, no pause, only the silent confirmation that they are this notable thing, this wheel of many parts that can rise and spin over and over again, full of gorgeous life. Ah, world, what lessons you prepare for us, even in the leafless winter, even in the ashy city. I am thinking now of grief and of getting past it. I feel my boots trying to leave the ground. I feel my heart pumping hard. I want to think again of dangerous and noble things. I want to be light and frolicsome. I want to be improbable, beautiful, and afraid of nothing, as though I had wings. So in today's practice, see if you can practice as though you have wings. Letting your hands come down to your heart. If you can, keep your eyes closed. Breathe up into your shoulders if you're feeling them. You're going to tune in with Om Namo Gurudev Namo. Breathing in for the first of three. As you inhale, bring your hands out to your knees. I'm just going to slightly reset the legs for butterfly, which we did in the last round. So you're coming up onto the side edges of your feet. Find where your feet need to be so you're up on your sits bones, not back on your tailbone. And then stabilize through your core to hold your torso up. Inhale, your arm up, and exhale, come back to center, hands clapping at center. Inhale, both knees, one arm up. Exhale, back to center. Find a dynamic pace as soon as you're able, but feel free to slow it down to get the coordination and the precision so you can feel your low back is lengthening as you lift your legs and your arm. Double check your shoulders, stay broad on your back. You're keeping the space around your neck. When you find that you're able to close your eyes, take your gaze towards that third eye point. Drawing energy up out of the ground into your strong legs. We did low crow in the last round. We're going to play again with crow in this round. So see if you can feel the leg muscles, particularly inner thighs, that ability to hug in, to lift up off the ground through your legs, through your core. I'm going to do a switch here with the legs. So this next time that you come down, bring your other foot in front and continue on. Notice how that feels. If that feels different in your ankles, knees, or hips than having the other foot in front. We tend to sit the same way because it's easier, we're used to it. So this might feel a little bit more awkward this side. Working with that. Jaw relaxed. If you're feeling tired, see if you can draw a little deeper from within. Strong breath. Nearly there. Taking one more on each side, and then lift both arms up, lengthen out through your elbows, through your fingers, broaden your shoulders onto your back, holding your knees up. Suspend the breath, just stay as long as you're not struggling. If it's appropriate for you, engage Mula Bandha, root lock, eyes focused at your third eye point, Ajna Chakra, your point of perception. When you need to release, bring your arms down, taking your hands behind you, and unfold your legs and windshield wiper your knees so your feet are on the ground, taking your knees side to side and releasing out your hips. Taking in the energy of what you've just done and integrating that through the slower movement and a slower breath. When you roll to each side, see if you can drop both knees and both hips closer to the ground, noticing which ones tend to rise. And this next time that you inhale, come back up to center and come into a narrower squat. So if your heels don't touch the ground, when you're in a wider squat, this narrower squat, you're probably going to have the same situation, and you may need to lean forward so you don't do a backwards roll. Find your balance. You can also try holding onto the mat. This is a really good posture to prepare for crow. So see if you can find a little bit more opening in your calves, in your Achilles. Feet a little narrower, starting to find perhaps where they're in line with your sits bones and parallel to each other. Aligning your knees over your feet. So watch as I move into this high crow. Pause, watch what's happening before you do it. I'm going to ask you to do the same visualization exercise. Part of doing something is seeing that you can do it in the first place. Seeing how it's done, how it can be done. And then watch as I shift weight onto my fingers, stretching them out, lift the heels up, and re-tuck. Bring the thighs right up into the ribs. And then connect knees to the upper backs of the arms. So your knees are probably going to come out a little bit wider than when you were on the ground. Pushing the ground away with your hands. In this high crow version, versus the one that we did last time where you're just shifting forward. There's a little bit more of a lift up. It's almost like airplane wheels that lift up once you take off. So when you start to feel weight coming into your hands, you're ready to take weight into your hands, tuck your feet up towards your butt cheeks, and throughout all of this, look forward, look ahead. So there's going to be a little bit of scrunching in the back of your neck. It's the only time I'll say that that's okay. And once you've seen what's happening here, pause, close your eyes, visualize it, and then play with doing it. Don't feel that you need to get into it fully the first time. Then bring your hands to the ground, stretching out through your fingers before you bring your palms down, bringing your hands close enough to each other that you feel stable, and also close enough to your feet that you can then wedge your knees right up into the upper backs of your arms. It's almost as though you're wrapping your underarms over your kneecaps. Press the ground away with your hands, broaden your shoulders onto your back, look ahead, and start to tilt weight forward into your hands, keeping the lift of your belly and the lift of your feet even if they're on the ground. Keeping the lift of your head as well. Bring yourself back onto your feet. If you've shifted your weight into your hands, find where your feet are parallel. We're going to move into standing spinal flex. So as you find where your feet are parallel, lift your toes, lift your kneecaps, bring your hands up onto your legs, where when you lift your torso up and you lengthen out, your low back is long, your sits bones are lifted. So wherever your hands need to be for that, feel free to check your low back. And then as you exhale, lengthen and release your low back, but without releasing your quadriceps or your toes. So your legs are lifted and long. From that length through your legs and through your spine, bring your right fingertips to the ground or to a block and shift your weight into your right foot. Bring your left hand onto your left thigh and feel that leg lift up as you inhale, and bring your left hand then up to your left front hip bone, and feel how when you start to open that hip to face off the left side of the mat, you can feel that with your fingertips, but feel in your right leg how your right knee wants to follow. So stabilize the right knee, lift the thigh muscle, the quadricep up, keep your inner arch lifted up, but then open the left hip, the thigh, the toes to face off the left side of the mat, and keep your left hand here on your hip as long as you need to. So don't feel that you need to take your arm up right away. Find what's happening underneath first. Anchor down through your right heel so that then you can lift and lengthen up through your legs and have less weight in your right hand. If you've taken your left arm up, as you exhale, next bring your left leg and your arm back down and come into standing tuck. Check that your feet are parallel under your front hips. Wrap your hands and your elbows behind your calves and bend your knees deeply enough that your knees connect to your chest. So don't worry about how much you lengthen up. Start first really tucked in, so your breath has to go into your back, and then start lifting your sits bones up, noticing that place where you want to separate. Use your arm strength to help keep you integrated. Find your shoulders on your back. And then we're going to play with that high crow again. So you just were in a tucked pose. You're going to take that tucked pose and bring it off the ground. So bring your hands a little bit forward. They're not quite as wide as they would be for down dog. And then open your knees out, bring them to the upper backs of your arms. And reconnect yourself into that little tucked posture. Look ahead, lift your head up, broaden your shoulders onto your back, and then shift weight into your hands. Even if it means your feet do not leave the ground, just play with taking some weight into your hands. You can do it step by step, day by day. And then bring your weight back onto your feet, coming back into standing spinal flex. So finding the lift from your toes through your arches, right up through your thighs and your sits bones, and then out through the length of your spine, hands wherever they need to be when your low back has its integrity. It's curving towards the floor as you inhale. And we're going to play with opening into that balancing posture on this left side. So next time you inhale and lift up, keep your right hand on your right thigh. Bring your left fingertips to the floor to a block. Shift your weight to your left foot. Keeping your left kneecap aligned over your toes as you start to open your right leg up. Use your right hand almost like you're going to help lift that right leg up. Feel how the hip is opening and how it wants to tug the left knee into the midline. Strong outer and upper left thigh. Reach through the ball of your right foot, stretch it away from your head so you can feel a long line. And then if you do take your right hand up, you don't need to, but if you do, see if you can lift that hand up, lift some weight out of your left hand and find long line between the fingertips, a little bit more space within the shoulder joints. Give it one more in-breath and see if you can fly up, open out, and then use your exhale to release your right hand down and to step your feet back, coming into modified down dog. So modified by doing that same tucking action that you were doing in tuck pose and also in the high crow. Lift your heels, bend your knees, move your rib cage towards your thighs and tilt your tailbone up towards the sky. And then start to open your shoulders towards your feet, keeping your ears between your arms, your shoulders on your back. Use your belly lifting up to tilt your tail up and your front thighs drawing back to pull weight out of your hands as you start to deepen this, open this into a fuller down dog. And this next time that you exhale, shift forward and come into plank and then bring your knees down for knee down plank. I'm going to play here with finding how to lift up from underneath when there's a little bit less weight in the hands initially. So plant the base of your fingers down, push the ground away, turn your elbow points to face the side edges of the mat. Broaden your upper rib cage between your upper arms so you're not sinking into your shoulders, you're also not overly rounding your upper back. And then draw your low belly in and up and aim your tailbone towards your heels. So even though your knees are down, you have a long line from your knees to your head. You're not a sway bridge. Next time that you inhale, lift your belly up from underneath and shift up through plank into your down dog. Start by modifying, bend your knees, lift your heels, tilt your tail up, clear your shoulders from your neck, and then keep all of that as you start to reach your heels a little deeper towards the ground. Feeling the strength of your core and your thighs, pulling weight out of your hands. This next time that you exhale, come forward into plank, this time full plank. And if you want to make it knee down, you can. When you're ready, move into full plank. Same awareness of your low belly drawing in and up. Start to find a long line from your head, top of your head reaching forward to your heels reaching back. And then see if you can feel that your pelvis is even. And test that you're holding up from underneath from your core by lifting one foot off the ground. So try lifting your right foot up. Notice if that right hip drops down or overly rises. Can you keep your pelvis even? And then switching sides. Keep breathing steadily. Breathe a little deeper. Holding yourself up off the ground. But instead of making your arms do all the work, find your core and your leg strength. Next time that you exhale, we're going to come into supported side plank, Vasisthasana. So rolling to the outer edge of your right foot, press through the four corners of your foot, push the ground away with your right hand, and step your left foot in so that it's about level with your right knee, and push the ground away with your left foot so your hips come up a little bit higher. Bring some weight out of that right shoulder, right hand. And then taking your left arm up if you haven't already, reach your hand away from your fingers, finding space in your shoulder joints. Use that left foot on the ground to help you, to bridge, to find a little bit more length. Aim your tailbone towards your heel. Next time that you exhale, roll back into center plank. Take a breath in center plank, finding your core strength and integrity, and then roll to the outer edge of your left foot. Step your right foot in about level with your left knee. Push the ground away with that right foot so you lift your hips up. Take some weight out of your left hand, left shoulder. And as you reach up through your right hand, see if you can pull a little bit more weight out of that left hand. Clear your shoulder joints. Stretch your head to the front edge of the mat and your left heel and your tailbone to the bottom edge of the mat. Next exhale, roll back to center and into your down dog. Modify initially. Find the tilt of your tail, your shoulders broad on your back. Double check your foundation in your hands and your feet. Are your fingers lining up, toes lining up? And then start to grow your legs a little longer, feeling the relationship between leg lengthening to your low back rounding or your shoulders lifting. Keep your breath steady. It might be a little deeper. And giving that down dog one more breath, noticing the energy that you have here, holding yourself up off the ground. And as you exhale, release your way down into child and open your wrists out. So before you release your head down, press through the backs of your hands to open the top of your wrists. And then as you go to release your head down, slide your hands back by your feet and open your fingers where they connect to the palms. Once you have a good stretch through your wrists, through your fingers, then release your forehead onto the ground. Rest in child pose. Find where that's comfortable for you, where you can let go and be still. Letting go of the breath. Becoming aware of your energy here. Being aware, if you look back in your mind's eye to what we just did of closing in and opening out, you can see what you've done and you can see what you'd like to do, then when you come into doing it again next time, you have a visualization that supports you, a perception that supports you. I'll give you a little bit of that poem again for that visualization. And now in the theater of air, they swing over buildings, dipping and rising. They float like one stippled star that opens, becomes for a moment fragmented, then closes again. Becoming aware of your breath from this closed posture of being tucked down in child pose. Feel the expansion of your breath. Bringing yourself upright through the breath. Use your next inhale to uncurl. Keep your eyes closed. Can you feel where you are in space? Come from your tucked posture into uncurling to kneeling, bringing your arms out and up overhead without your eyes. When you find your palms meeting above your head, draw them down so that your thumb tips come to touch at your third eye point, Ajna Chakra, between the brows. And eyes closed, looking towards that point. We're going to work with the mantra Loka Samasta Sukhinu Bhavantu, which means may the world be established with well-being and happiness. So you may want to visualize what that might look like. Feel free to listen to the first one. As you're ready, join in. Loka Samasta Sukhino Bhavantu. Loka Samasta Sukhino Bhavantu. Loka Samasta Sukhino Bhavantu. Loka Samasta Sukhino Bhavantu. Keeping your eyes closed, rub your palms together. Create some heat there, especially if it's cold outside. Find some heat in your hands. Bring that heat in your hands over your eyes and let your eyes soften into the warmth and the darkness of your hands. And then very slowly transition out of that darkness by opening your eyes into your hands and then opening your hands away from your face, taking in the color of the room. Acknowledge yourself in your practice and anyone else you're practicing with. Namaste.